Good evening, welcome to SHOWstudio. Tonight we're going to be discussing the Marni show, which is taking place at Pitti Uomo in Florence. So to begin our intros, Sharmadean, if you'd do the honours.
Hey, I'm Reid from Nails.
I'm Chodha and I'm a fashion writer.
I'm Natalie, Theo, I have a blog and I work for Recipe.
I'm Daryoush and I'm the senior editor of Complex UK. So I thought it would make a lot of sense. I mean, there's sort of two things to be excited about on the off. It's the first menswear show in quite some time by Marni, rather than a presentation. And also they're one of the guest designers along with Hood by Air at Pitti in Florence. And I thought it was interesting really to discuss a little bit the rise of Florence. Florence's increasing sort of important place within the industry. I thought we'd kick off with that really. Sharma, what are your, what's the last time, please don't say the last time you went to Florence was
when I went with you.
Yeah.
I think it was. When we went for Carrie's party, which was in the same villa that Kim and Kanye got married in. Did you notice that?
I think that.
Yeah, it was. I think the last time I went to Florence was with you, but I am not the kind of person who goes to trade shows if that's not my business to be there. And when I was there, we were at Arena Home Plus, so it was relevant, and I absolutely loved going because to me, Pitti did something really fun, which was like unite all of these different kind of worlds of menswear together. So just the fact that there is a Hood by Air show now, when on earth would those kind of uptight Milanese fashion editors ever see something like a Hood by Air presentation, which I've been to a few Hood by Air events, and they're incredible. They're so energetic and they're so cool. The music's amazing. Like they've got, you know, all their Bean Trio mates there. It's just like really what's happening now on the street. And I think menswear as a whole, whenever I see the shows, I'm always quite like, because they don't reflect the street in a way that they could do so easily. Like men's shows to me don't reflect what actually like kids on the street wear. Even though it's like the easiest translation of street to fashion.
But do women's?
Well, I don't necessarily think women's does as much, but I think there's a bigger, different audience for women's high fashion. Whereas with menswear, there'd always be boys in my hood who would easily spend £300–400 on a jumper, where girls would still just go Topshop and buy like £20 things here and there. But it doesn't really reflect the street as much. But what Pitti does is it happily marries what's happening in the street internationally with what's happening on men's catwalk. So I still think it's fun and it's relevant, and the event that we went to was amazing. It was like so magical to be in this historical town wearing some of the craziest clothes. It's what makes fashion fabulous, and it was like an amazing event. And you see them as a curator of people and things, what Pitti does to me.
And also menswear is becoming a stronger and stronger business platform, and it can't just be, we've seen that now and it's been amazing, it's enjoying this resurgence, and it can't just be about bringing the traditional into the contemporary, it's about looking the contemporary too and making that relevant and accessible and putting it on a platform where those in the fashion industry can see it and shop it and buy it. And interestingly enough, I think Marni menswear is a sort of polished street version if you take out the pieces that one could wear if you're not doing the sort of more traditional route. And I think this is a great platform and great place for them to be showing.
But also
5 years later.
What Sharma said about the kind of the architecture and the whole city, the traditional kind of element of Italy, and everyone that's been to Italy, that's kind of one of the things that kind of hits you in the face first. Almost this lack of modernity, this kind of shying away from kind of contemporary life in terms of design, definitely. But in terms of the fashion, what's really interesting is that when you see things like this, and more importantly yesterday's Hood by Air presentation presented in this kind of almost quite formal, kind of quite historical kind of looking environment as well. It really does throws a new light on it that maybe, and again, I think in London, in terms of the men's collections here, you know, there is almost a lot of freedom about where people can show, and kind of people tend to kind of show, if they can, where the space reflects best their aesthetic and what it is that they're doing. But actually with something like Florence, or even in Milan in Italy, it's probably very difficult for lots of these young new contemporary designers, not saying that Marni is one in particular, but to find that space that kind of looks completely right. So you almost get this kind of quite jarring aesthetic, which I think is quite exciting and quite interesting to look at.
Yeah, I love the jarring thing.
And
it reminds me of like when Club Kids went on like really conservative American chat shows, and there was this like, you know, thing of all, because that's what Pity's like. It gets descended on by essentially fashion club kids, and you're sat next to these guys who are wearing these pristine suits and looking absolutely immaculate, and everyone just coexists, and it almost makes the events legendary. Like, remember that day when we like partied in that castle, and do you know what I mean? I love that.
I mean, also I think it's interesting because, I mean, it is the big trade show. It's the premium trade show. It's where so much of that kind of sartorialist street style comes from and is shot. And what I thought was interesting, I was speaking to a friend who works in quite a senior position at quite a big Italian house, and she was just saying, you know, they're stuck, they don't know how to update. And I was sort of, you know, saying, well, look, you know, the way the Japanese and the American streetwear world relates to Italy is through Florence. You know, Florence is actually really, and all the people that design and revolve around there are considered really hip and are modern, and that's what people want to interact with, and it's you know, because of the craft, and I think the craft is
cool.
You know, yeah,
it's cool. Actually cool.
It's the artisan.
The craft. It is. I think, ironically, it's bringing it back to the fore again, and it's not being associated. It's being celebrated, and it's not a sort of old man's tradition. It's all about celebrating the craft, and that's how you can make your menswear different, by finding a craft and offering it and pushing it and doing it in a little bit of a different way.
I also think with all these trade shows internationally, and you can pretty much go to a fashion trade show once a week if you wanted, there is a bit of like internal competition to make theirs the hottest, irrespective of how successful it is financially. Like, I imagine Pity's always been successful financially because they always have the stands, the same huge brands exhibiting. That's not even what is known about Pity. What is known about it is all of the things that they pay for to bring like cool cultural things to the trade show. The trade show is like the cogs of the business turning, but then you have to have it punctuated with these fun presentations happening, so that, you know, it's like a internal competition that this trade show is going to be better than another one in Tokyo or another one in Paris or whatever. It's quite. I guess
they have the benefit of knowing that Milan is kind of the serious bit, and they can have fun here. Whereas if any other city were, because like with the way London is kind of trying to, or is cleaning itself up and becoming very almost so professional that it's almost kind of suffocating itself in terms of creativity. That I think there's a certain freedom when you are offering, because they're almost offering kind of all those events and all that fun can happen because it's not happening in Milan.
Thing though, I don't know. I mean, from what I've read, I think like trade-wise, Florence is not like a little sort of fun adjunct.
No, that's what I mean.
It's not.
I think it's huge. Like, I think that the trade show element of it is always been massively successful. It's never dead. Like, it's never, when you go into the trade show, it's never empty or not bustling. But then when we're talking about how, well, if we think about how fashion has changed over the last decade, to remove it from the fashion industry like circle to a wider public circle, then there is much more pressure on like New York Fashion Week, like London, all the fashion weeks internationally, plus all the trade shows, to become written about, to become known, to become blogged in a wider public sphere, if that makes sense. Like, there are other trade shows that happen that like your average 20-year-old blogger would never have heard of, because it's just not publicised in the way that Pity is, because it does fun things like this. So what I'm saying is that Pity, like any other business, will have a marketing team, will have a PR team, whatever, and they're responsible for coming up with ideas of things like this presentation, like Hood by Air, things to shock, like Carrie's thing, to rejuvenate the trade show with a young energy. Do you know what I mean? It's what makes it public. Like, I'm pretty sure that the average person doesn't actually know what happens in the trade show, like the deals that are being made. What they know is, oh, Hood
That's
by
quite
Air
fun.
did
I want
a
one of
presentation.
something.
Yeah, something fun happened. There was a party. There was this.
But
there was
that's
that.
probably the last bit of the fashion industry that is
Definitely.
still relatively not
Hidden
secret
away.
but hidden away. And I don't know if that gets exposed, then all of the excitement and glamour of fashion would definitely be lost.
No, it's a little underground exposure, but it's that young fashion that's going to give it the exposure, and it's going to make it. It's not the fashion
But like the
editor
trade
writing
show,
about
I
it
mean,
in a
who
magazine.
cares? I had no idea about trade shows when I was at college. I'm sure you didn't either. When we
Of course
were
I
at
did.
Whatever.
I used to go to printing trade shows in Birmingham because I just loved going and seeing people who
See
are
the
obsessed
people.
with one thing.
Yeah.
Like I'd go and see all these print men at the NIA in Birmingham because I was obsessed with graphic design, and I'd just go and see these old men who had paper factories. So
But like
I always,
fashion
like,
trade shows, I graduated and still had no idea what they were. And there was, although that's kind of not great, you could argue, but there's something quite nice about that because my relationship to the subject, and I'm speaking for all of my peers and people that I graduated with, had nothing to do with how many jackets have been sold here and there. And although that is, of course, really, really important, I don't think it should be important to everyone. And there's a danger that as trade shows and everything is becoming so talked about and in a quite an open way that kind of everything's
Too out there.
It's kind of too out there.
Yeah, I
agree.
agree.
So now you went to those trade shows because you sought them out and you loved them and you had your own interest. Whereas now, how are young people wanting to get into the industry allowed to form their own interests if we're kind of shoving them in their faces all the time?
I know what you mean, but I kind of, I was discussing this with Complex because Complex part of the culture is hip hop. And I was discussing, about trying to, the amount of my friends now that like post things from Forbes or Business Insider, there's, making money is, and I was writing this as well the other week for Modern Weekly, making money is no longer seen as opposed to creativity. It's seen as the same thing, and I kind of feel like business, enterprise is a massively subversive force. Liberalism was basically built on enterprise. So if you were showing people how to make a business work, I get what I do. Part of me thinks, yes, I'm very into like some mad person on 27Es, designing a bucket and and saying that it's some new political system and everybody wearing it, but at the same time, I also think there's something quite fabulous about kids being able to see how the business works and building it, and being able to think, I want a t-shirt label. Why shouldn't I have a t-shirt label?
Yeah, I agree.
And
you guys. I'm going to say that because I've been in the industry for a long time, but it's the most exciting platform for any young person or older person. But it is so exciting that if you're in the fashion industry and you're not being enterprising, you're missing a beat. I think everything is at your fingertips, and that's what's so wonderful about it. You can go and meet the old man with his crazy paper factory and think, you know what, I want to put all of this up on a website and create something or open up a shop. You can do it, and that's what's so exciting. And most of the people I follow on Instagram are these amazing young bloggers. I follow them because I'm actually fascinated by what they've created out of their pure passion, and they work hard. We were discussing this earlier. It's not easy. It looks all beautiful and fabulous and you think, oh, you're lucky. It's a lot of hard work has gone into that and a lot of hustling, but it's fantastic. And I think any young person working today in the fashion industry or any industry related to it should be enterprising and should just go for it. And this is a great way of inspiring the people. This word is going to get spread by those hip hop cool dudes out there, floating around Florence at some crazy party, writing about it, spreading the word, sharing it, not by a fashion editor writing for a newspaper or magazine.
It's true.
I agree.
And it's so exciting. I think it's something that everyone should just embrace and just go for it. Every time a young kid asks me for any advice, I say, go and start a business.
Yeah,
and work hard. It's just the most exciting time to be in.
The reason I'm questioning it, the reason I'm suspicious of it is because of the way that aesthetics are being challenged. That's what I'm not, great that young people are being, but actually there are aesthetic issues here, and as a lover of obviously aesthetics, I'm kind of quite protective of the fact that you're getting kids not to patronise people, you're getting people producing things that they don't understand, and they have no kind of, they have no understanding of where these things have come from. And I think that is a problem. Yes, they might be making loads of money at it. It might make them very kind of entrepreneurial, but actually, ultimately, I don't need another t-shirt label that the person making the t-shirt label doesn't even really understand.
Part of me massively agrees with you. I was talking I'll refer to it again as a certain department store that's full of fake Haj-Bayers. And you know, and you can tell straight away. I met some of the guys at a press day recently, and they were like, "Hey," and I was like, "Yeah, whatever," because I was just like, "You don't believe in this for 10 seconds." And believe me, at Complex, I'm constantly being emailed people who have a t-shirt label because they want to make money. But at the same time, I love the way that by hustling, you can go, "I demand to be given this platform. I demand to be given this space, and no matter what you think of me or my friends or my designs, you need this because we're making money." And I love that. I think that's beautiful. I genuinely think that's beautiful, because there's just a logic to business that people can't be snobby about, you know. And I think that's quite, yeah, I think that's wonderful.
Yeah.
I used to feel like that. I used to be like, I feel like my my peer group was probably the last of the kids who grew up without an iPhone. Like, the iPhone came out the year I graduated. So I distinctly remember when press days started to appear on social media, because I remember being like, "Oh, I thought you weren't meant to show, you know, what stuff." Yeah. So I specifically remember the change happening, and it did used to rile me for a long time, because I'm very methodical, and I research a lot, and I've been into the things that I've been into since I was like 12 years old. So I'd be like, who are these people coming along just turning up at fashion press days and taking pictures and getting this and getting that? But then over the last like, you know, 5-6 years, I kind of thought, you know what? Everyone deserves a chance. And I think one of the things about England that is so different to America is we do have this attitude of, you have to have put the work in to like get the results. Like everyone does, you know, everyone to some extent will do some level of work, but there is no difference between a blogger who just buys her own ticket to Florence, manages to blag tickets. That's still like a work ethic to a degree. There's no difference between that girl and the rich West London girl who starts a brand because she's well connected and got daddy's money. There is no difference between those two people, yet why should one be respected more than the other just because one has gone through a traditional pathway to you know, starting a brand, when the other is kind of a bit of an outsider doing it themselves. I was the same. I was like, these people don't know anything, these kids don't know anything. I meet people who are like, yeah, I'm gonna wear bindies. It's so like, you know, they don't know a reference that they could even say why they're wearing a bindi, and it would bother me. Now, why am I bothered? They're just kids. I'm sure that when I was 21, I bothered people.
Yeah, but
do you know what I mean?
Yeah, but it wasn't easy for you to find the reference. Now you can Google it.
Yeah, you can Google it, but I mean,
but it doesn't.
It does frustrate you, but I think that you, as a, like, fashion has changed, and we're all aware that this industry that we have grown up in and been obsessed with and known and loved has changed. But ultimately, some people are going to fall by the wayside and some are going to make it the 10, 20-year business. Like, I remember when I started my nail salon, people were like, oh, some other nail company woman specifically said to me, I see businesses like you come and go. And I was like, all right. and I just thought, you know what? No, I'm actually going to make this into like a multi-million-pound business because I want to show you it's not going to come and go. And I can do that quite easily. And I'm sure she had the attitude that we have about fashion, where it's like, this girl knows nothing about nails, which is true. I didn't know anything about nails, but I was like, no, I actually could make this work. It's fine. It could be here for a decade, and I think time will tell from the t-shirt designers who become real designers, who become brands, to the ones who are just doing it for money and will fall by the wayside.
Also,
you know?
Also, I think it's interesting in the history of Florence, because of course Florence was the premium fashion force in Italy. And Milan came along and wrestled that away. I'm not
with industry.
Yeah, you know, like the flash, like, you know, the cash, the kind of, you know, I've got this idea of sort of sexy skyscrapers coming along and nicking
down the heel.
Yeah, you're right. The factory taking over the artisan, like
exactly.
That's what it is.
And it did that, and you know, there are many reasons to be wary of bankers and etc. But you know, that that combination of that brash cash and the artisanal skills took Italian fashion from a subordinate role below French fashion to, for 20 years, it's now fading, but for 20 years it kind of kicked the French aside and took over the world.
You can't knock brash cash, I'm afraid.
Exactly.
You know, whether it's supporting this or something cool or something traditional, you can't knock it. You've just got to find a way to merge it.
It's true. It's
So,
50-50.
you know.
If you can balance commerce and creativity, it's probably one of my earliest lessons working for stylists who were so successful at doing money jobs and cool editorial. I learnt very early on, you can be creative and make money, and there's no shaming it.
No.
There isn't really.
It's your job. You've got to you know, move ahead. You know, it's not.
And also I always think with fashion that the thing is, I mean, I get really excited about this because I'm like always really excited by people sort of go, well, why has Rihanna got a fashion line? Why is A$AP Rocky obsessed by fashion? Why is Kanye obsessed by fashion? And people often think it's to make money, and I think there is a making money, but I think it's also about marketing. And and it's the fact that actually if you want to put your idea out there, Malcolm McLaren's genius was going, well, I'm going to see anarchism walk down the street. I don't need to write a book. It's just going to sell having that T-shirt, and having that commerce is a form of communication. It's a form of chat. It's a way of, if you can sell a T-shirt with your face on, then you don't, if you're a pop star, you can wait for your next album to come out and your next publicity thing, or you can understand that every single fashion magazine will write about anything you do.
Yeah.
But fashion is your first form of self-expression. You're born and then you have an opinion on what you don't want to wear.
Yeah, it's true.
More so than what you do want to wear. Ask any mother.
I am a mum, and I have my son who wants to wear the most awful
and
things.
Did you ever think you'd be having those conversations, and then you realise actually, so it's the first form of self-expression, so it's great. So that's the one thing that it's that this is what I like, this is what I'm putting on, and actually, if I start a really badly made T-shirt label tomorrow, but I have 5 million people following me, I don't know why they're following me, and I don't know why they're buying it. So you can't knock that, but there must be something in it.
There's something. There's something.
But what I'm not knocking people making money. Fine, that's of course wonderful because people need to make money. What I'm knocking is this idea that people try and formulate very, very quickly some sort of aesthetic opinion and education for the means of just to make money. So it is those people that are just like, well, I'm going to do fashion, I'm going to do anything, and it's all these rubbish fucking collaborations.
Do you know? But if it works, I'm afraid it's not going to bother anyone because if it's working, I'm really not going to listen to nothing.
It is working, but it is working in a way that is killing.
But
it's not
honest,
killing.
It's not killing it.
Honest.
The honest. It's still. I don't need honesty. I need well-made, beautiful.
You know
things.
what? I don't think it's killing.
Contrast.
No, I don't think it's killing because I do think if you think of, like the triangle, the best shape in the world, like, is useful to describe so many things. And I think when, like you said, you've seen so many copies of Hood by Air. Like Hood by Air would be at the top of the triangle, and all the copies would be at the bottom. The sad truth is the biggest chunk at the bottom is where most of the people are going to buy the stuff. So I don't think it's necessarily killing the top of the triangle. I don't think it's like suffocating any other designers or any other people. What I think is that the base level of mentality of shopper needs a base level item. And that's what it is. It's fulfilling a need that's out there. Because the average person, your average Essex boy who wants to buy a fake Supreme t-shirt doesn't want to know about Supreme, care about Supreme, know anything about skateboarding. They don't want to pay the amount of the cost of goods, and they don't want to have to travel into London. They're quite happy to buy a knockoff version for £20 on their local high street, and that's meeting a need. And so I don't feel like it's suffocating because all the other brands will continue to sell to the people who can afford and care about that level of clothing.
I think that the difference is that I'm not talking about money, I'm not talking about selling. That's not
I'm talking
about aesthetics. I'm talking about your son looking at people in the face.
But no, I'm not talking about money either.
Enterprise doesn't mean bad quality or badly made.
Well, you're talking about selling and buying.
No, I'm talking about aesthetics too, and I'll tell you why. Because I'm from Wolverhampton and I've just recently moved back. Well, I've been back in Wolverhampton since March. And what I just couldn't I've been in London for 10 years. I forgot that people do not care about what they're wearing. Like sometimes I wear designer stuff in Wolverhampton just for a laugh. Just like, because nobody gives two hoots what my outfit is or who it's by.
No.
Like my sisters, if they had a choice between what I would call a tasteful item and what I think is not tasteful, they 9 times out of 10 would choose the not tasteful item because that is their taste. It's just not our taste. And you know, taste, there's been entire books written on taste.
I think
and
there was
I think
something...
you have to remember that taste, if we're talking about aesthetics and taste, your taste is the top of the triangle. So you can't expect everybody to serve your taste. There has to be lower level items to serve the taste of the mass, which isn't bad taste, it's just their taste, and it's not ours.
Yeah, but with the sharing of all this information, the taste is now becoming like this. The taste level is the same.
No, I think it's being refined. I think it's being refined. Because I think people are being saturated. No, I think it's being refined.
I think you can buy the same look in Marni, in Zara, in Dolce.
If I want to, but if I want, but that 10% of people want that look and another 10% will want a different look.
It's not the same. No. Do you know what I really miss about working at fashion magazines is feeling and touching the most expensive quality garments you will ever hold in your hands. You can't say that you could buy the same maybe from a distance look, but when you get up close it's not the same, and that's where taste...
Yeah, but that's the bit that they don't care about, but people care about the look because...
Yeah, but they don't know that Marni made it.
And the person can buy the one that's the real,
but surely the fashion industry's job should be to tell them that Marni made it. That's our job.
No, I remember being a kid, like a little kid, like before I read...
Can I, since we arrived at Marni,
yes.
can I ask what makes Marni fantastic? Is it the materials?
It's just
the opulence and luxuriousness, and it is
so
but
fun.
It's a bit daft, some of it.
Daft?
Yeah.
You see, you said that to me earlier, and
that's a really good word.
Yeah,
it's nice, and I mean that in a
bit daft.
Daft. I mean that in a good way. If
we're talking about Marni, we can say. I normally say daft, but we can say daft.
And you look at the shapes. No, you can say daft.
No, I like it. We're talking about Marni. Yeah, I want to be posh.
I'm not posh. I'm from Africa, for goodness sake. Right. You've got the structured shapes, you've got the wacky prints, and you've got this complete cacophony of colour going on. It's daft, but it works.
See, that's good because I wouldn't have.
It's great daft. So it depends what you want to take from it and what you want to wear. Am I a Marni wearer? No. But it's one of those brands that sort of a lot of high-end fashionistas love.
I really want to be a Marni wearer. Yeah, I love it.
It's quite it requires thought.
Yeah.
It requires thought.
Marni,
the accessories, it requires thought.
It's a very Italian form of daft, isn't it? Or
it's like artistic daft.
Because it makes no apologies, and I like that. So we were discussing this earlier. You can say it is a bit low-key, but actually, when you look at it, it's quite in your face. You need to have a little bit of, you need to think about it if you're a Marni wearer.
I just love it because it's like what a really eccentric art teacher who's a little bit crazy
indulgent.
But chic, would wear. Like I always find it like art teachery.
But I mean, look at the women's wear collection. That was completely out of control. Look at all of the furs, the embellishment. There was no mercy. It was just unashamedly, fabulously opulent and luxurious. And actually, if you looked at it, you think this isn't supposed to work, but it did.
I think the menswear in particular is all about the proportions are very interesting.
Yeah.
Although the proportions have been adopted by a lot of other people now. Marni started doing them for a while, so they used to, well, maybe they still own that look. But it'd be interesting to see how with this collection they've kind of maybe moved away from, because I think post the huge scale of attention that they received after their collaboration with H&M and these sorts of events that they're now starting to do, there are more eyes on them. So it'd be interesting to see whether they sort of decide to slightly move it on a bit or maybe respect all of the things that they have built up over a period of time, which is this eccentricity, which is the proportions, which is this hard, you need some sort of, and again, aesthetic kind of information or intelligence to put this stuff together. Otherwise,
they
you would
do it
look
well though for men.
Like a bag of
menswear. They
mad.
do their prints beautifully.
Yeah.
You know, prints. I think menswear and prints sometimes don't go together. They're hard to wear, and you're hard pressed to make it work if you're not into doing that whole look. They do it brilliantly. I don't know if it's the quality of the clothing. I think it's there's some, you can just look at it and you just know It's just beautifully made. But
It's
they also
just
do
considered.
the mix of colour, the textures. It's what they do, and it's what you go to Marni for. You're not going to go for a plain black suit.
No.
No.
No. Well, it's interesting. They've sort of were doing some quite fantastic. They were sort of felt a bit more technical a couple of years ago. You know, we were talking earlier about the kind of coated legging period, and the technical coats. And now they're moving. The last couple of shows are going a bit more to a narrow collar kind of. It seems to be taking a little bit away from that. You think?
Well, we have to wait and see what's happening in this one
Yeah,
before we like knock them for not being. I don't know.
Oh, I love a technical coat.
Yeah.
Then, but that's just because I'm stuck in a rut. But
Oh, that's so cool.
So you see, look at that burst of sort of
Yeah.
colourful print. I mean, and that just
prints are
suddenly, you know that's Marni. You don't even need to be told, and you just think, look at that print. It's fabulous.
The prints are so good.
And they've taken such low-key, muted colours, and then the top and the bottoms, and then they've just given you that crazy Marni print.
Is that top? What is that? Suede?
It
or
looks
is
like a
shaved
suede,
sort of
or maybe
fur?
It looks like teddy bear
Pony.
fur. I'll have another drink, please.
are they an aristocratic family doing it? Like,
Oh, we don't know.
Yeah, do you know? Can they trace
Have we
their
Googled
lineage
that?
for centuries, like most Italian families? Do you know
Thank
what? What I just love that the prints are they always look a bit hand done.
Yeah, like somebody's
not,
actually
not
hand-
mechanical,
no, like
not
they've-
digital,
not too
not
Like
They've
digital
literally
prints.
stitched them by hand.
Yeah, I just think it's great.
And look at the colour combination.
I was just
look
about
at the
to
splash
say
of
that.
blue. You see?
I was going to say
look
that.
at the lining.
Because I've been doing so much colour research the last few years while I've been making polishes, the combinations of Marni are so specific, you can tell them a mile off.
Yep.
It's always like a bottle green with a purple and
The colours you
ochre,
think
or
would not go
the colours
together.
you think wouldn't
You would
go.
think are daft, but they're not when it's
They
done
really
the Marni way.
do
That's
them.
beautiful. I mean, those would be good nails, you know?
Yeah, everything's
The
a
blue
nail,
and the
babe.
purple. There you see. So that's
so
coming
that's
as
the daft.
there.
Yeah.
But it's fun. They've sort of carried on a bit from women's wear. It's quite young and playful,
And
which
they-
is not what we were talking about. It's not exactly what you'd expect.
Mm.
And I was saying earlier, we've just been looking at some images earlier from Instagram, and I was saying Marni, for everything that it is, it hasn't got this massive, huge social media profile that a lot of the other brands have. And I looked at their Twitter account. They only joined at the end of last year. They've got 80 tweets. They're on Instagram. They've got a lot of followers, about 40,000, but they've only got 100 Instagram pictures. But yet, if you say the word Marni, you know what it's about. Now, I'm sure if you speak out to everyone not in the fashion industry, because of the H&M collaboration, if you say the word Marni, you know what it's about. But interesting that they haven't got that huge, maybe that's the next step, I don't know.
I don't feel like that H&M collaboration was a particularly good move or particularly like had the
Stamp.
the stamp of other designers, which is actually okay because maybe they can like forget that it like happened, because I just think that they should really keep themselves up high as like this old Italian fashion house that is artistic in a way that, like, I would say when I look at prints like Marni prints, and when you look at like a Prada print, for example, you see the similarities, but you see the differences very clearly. And I think they should continue to be like up there and not do like, I can't imagine for a
They're not
second, and shoot me if they do. I
mainstream.
can't imagine Prada would do a H&M collaboration. I just can't see that happening. And I feel like Marni lately are trying to promote their personality of the brand. Like there was an
They always don't need to.
they don't need to. The designer, they did a at-home feature of her house. Was it in Vogue or
I didn't see
recently? There was a feature of her house, which is incredible and exactly what I'd expect her house to be like. But it was interesting for me because I thought, they're obviously really trying. You said that they've joined social media relatively lately, which I didn't realise, but they're obviously trying.
I think they need to do something because we all know it, we understand it, we appreciate it and we enjoy it. And I think more people would know it and understand it and appreciate it and enjoy it. I don't quite know, if you say to me what, I wouldn't be able to say what it is
yeah.
because they are unique. To me, they're like one of those amazing Italian furniture brands. You know, like
it's so closely linked with.
If they are like a furniture
design,
brand, like that's a beautiful furniture brand that can't do everything else, but just does what it does and does it brilliantly.
But this is why I think the H&M thing isn't the route to go, because to me.
Well, that was quite a while ago, though.
Yeah, I know, but I just think like.
But I think the thing with those H&M clubs, I've talked about it on a panel before. The people that queue up for them, they queue up for every single one. So they would have also queued up for Versace, and they would have also queued up, which is mind-boggling, because in theory they wouldn't have been the same taste.
It's not brand fans.
It's just it's just a very quick.
What they should be doing is working on who their fan base is and appealing to their fan base in their fan base's like spheres. Like, where do they hang out? That's where you should be. You know, it's interesting that this is in the museum, because that surely is the most perfect place for them to be in an art institution, right?
Well, it's also like you guys all said, you know, I remember that sort of mid-90s thing when everybody was going to do a homeware range and it was kind of weird. But Marni is just so perfectly pitched to do
I think of them,
possibly,
but I think of them, if you think of Italy and you think of design, you actually almost think of them as an amazing furniture brand or architectural. There's something in there. Exactly. It's a little bit like Prada.
Architectural.
It is like Prada in that flavour, and that needs to be portrayed, and it's not. And yes, like everything else, it does need to start tuning into a younger market.
No, but I agree. I think your analysis is right.
But I think, you know, it's beautiful.
I mean, it's strange, isn't it? Because
that's so good.
I mean, it's a strange thing to just. You know, not everything can just be thrown across a celebrity and put on. Instagram. It's not the best way to sell everything. I sort of totally agree that this is a.
It's not a Kim Kardashian.
But they've been collaborating with artists for prints and things, right?
Yeah.
Like I must admit that I can't remember names, but I know that they've collaborated with artists for different T-shirts and prints and things
and bags
and bags. Yeah, the bags are so good. What I love about Marni is that you will see the product and you'll like it because the product is a good product. Like I've seen their bags and I'm like, that's a good bag, and you get closer and you're like, yay, and it's Marni, and it's like, that's how they should continue in that vein of making really good products. If you're thinking of things that they would gonna do or appear, it's right, like it should be the Italian Design Festival or the Furniture Festival. Like I've worked at Nike, and Nike do things like that. They sponsor like design festivals because they want to be in that realm, and I think that's a better place to be.
It's cerebral.
Can we watch this video?
Full show, a lot of people there.
Yeah, it's packed.
I think in this show we can't see there was quite a lot of emphasis on knits.
There's quite a lot of furry stuff in it, like skins.
Cool accessories.
I mean, it is always so well styled in a way that you can't. It's really hard to, when you go into the shop, to try and pull it apart.
You just
kind
want
of end
the
up
whole
thinking you have to buy the whole thing.
The whole look.
Because it's kind of quite hard to put together yourself. You need to have some sort of
That's interesting.
guide almost. So the way that it's presented is always in this really.
Yeah, because you want the whole look. You almost don't want just one piece.
Yeah.
Because you think, well, how am I going to make this work with everything else
I've
got?
Like all of those coats, it's kind of like, what are they going to go with? You
the
have to
colour
really
combination and the texture and the print, what print's going with what, that's what it is. You need a guidebook to go with it. Or you actually need the whole look.
I think it's still, apart from like a few flashes of daftness, it's still quite chill, right? It's still quite muted. It's not wacky. Think about what we saw in London. London was like one big whack fest, like festival of wackiness. And this is like so chill. Yeah,
you can see that just oozing off that catwalk.
Like there's no snowflakes and stuff at this.
No. Well, there's no fan. Well, we got statues.
Oh,
I would love to know what those are.
What I love about Marni is that it's serious.
Yeah,
you know,
it's
people
so serious.
could write it off, but it is utterly these are very serious clothes. You know, they're not.
But they've got a nice.
Well, they have a sense of humour, but I mean, they're not.
Them, but they're serious. Those clothes are going to last a lifetime in your wardrobe. Those are not that quality. That's just going to. That's what you want. That's sort of almost what you want. Why people go to Savaro, for example, but you're going to Milan and Italy and Florence in this instance for that Italian luxury.
Can you ever see kids buying into this?
No, I think so. I don't think it's a. I think some brands, you know, like I always thought it was tragic that Lacoste did Lacoste Live. I know that's very far from here, but I just thought don't chase.
What are you talking about?
So they've got their little floral prints going on here.
I just thought don't chase the kids.
Yeah.
You know, like that's not always the right thing for you to do. Like to chase down, you know, and to sort of want to do youth. Sometimes, you know, their brand was so incredibly strong with kids anyway that all they needed to do was carry on being this
what
like
they were doing.
Old luxury brand, you know, because that's what they didn't get to.
It's actually what kids want.
Yeah.
They're not, you know, that's what they want.
You don't have to dumb it down.
No.
Yeah.
If they're gonna buy it, they're gonna buy it, right? There'll be one
They've
person.
saved their money to buy those great pieces, and they're not going to mess around.
Some brands, like, it's fine if that goes with your brand, but Marni, like, you know, I love the sort of thing, you know, the architectural kind of thing, and I think that there's enough people who want to buy into that. You know, you only have to go on Instagram to look at all the hotels being Instagrammed and all the sort of, you know, 20th century houses, you know. I mean, if you want to get really basic, I mean, the internet practically had an orgasm when Ice Cube went around LA looking
doing
at 20th...
Eames, I watched that, it was really cool.
I mean, so, you know, it'll fine.
It'll feed it.
Yeah,
yeah,
like, you know, you just want a sort of La Dolce Vita era swimming pool next to a Marni piece.
I think
you're done.
What you said about would the kids want it? I don't think they would, which is what I quite like about it. I think it's kind of. I don't know whether they would, you know, and if they do, then they're getting it in
then they've grown up.
Swedish high street brand that we all know with 3 letters. They're getting it in there already, so it's kind of, why would they need to come here?
Yeah.
I don't think. Yeah, it doesn't seem very young to me.
Yeah, but I'm asking the question because it is fascinating when things are the last bastion of, you know, really true, pure fashion. Like, can we imagine A$AP Rocky mentioning Marni? Like,
well,
is what I'm asking.
After what was it? It wasn't Ferragamo, was it? Salvatore Ferragamo, yeah. Wasn't it? He did the lookbook.
Oh, did he?
After doing that, I was just like, mate.
He was in the Ferragamo lookbook.
Yeah, I think it was Ferragamo. So yeah, with the 1950s.
Google
it. 1950s sports car, and I was just like, mate, you know.
But you know what I mean? Is if we're talking about what you say is some things you want to hold on to.
Yeah.
Don't let the masses get it. Don't let the masses get it. Then it probably is Marni, to be honest. And I really love it. The Spring-Summer Women's Show, the women's show, I was just like gobsmacked. I was like, this is what I want to look like all summer.
You look at it and think, how do they do it?
It's, thanks, babe. It's so beautiful. It made me like, and you know what's really funny? I don't feel ready for it. As in, like, I don't feel like, I feel like I want to be a bit older.
You have to earn
and I want to be I feel like I ought to earn the privilege to wear this look and to be rocking around in the look. And I think maybe for the men it's the same. Like for the youngsters, it's like you have to earn the right to wear.
Well, I know I always like to drag cars into this, but you know, Mercedes had this thing. They were sort of super well jealous of BMW being young. You know, because Mercedes was like, their average age was super old, but they still were making like the best-selling cars in Germany. You know, they were the German taxi, but their average age was super old. But I remember sort of going, like, walking along with my dad and going, Daddy, what's the best car in the world? Like, literally, you know, I'm 5 or something. He goes, Mercedes-Benz, right? And now people are like, you know, Mercedes have hauled themselves out to try and be young and cool and relevant. And now people are like,
what would they say now?
It's just a Renault, or the plastic's rubbish.
It's not about making this young, it's just about showing that it's not that, it's moved on. It's not that old, it's not an old brand, it's not a fusty brand. It's not about it making young or getting young people to buy it. It's just showing what they've shown today and making it contemporary.
Contemporary, yeah.
It's
I
always
agree.
been contemporary, but as you say, it's always something. It's a nice way of putting it. You feel you haven't earned it yet. It's not about dumbing it down or making it young at all. It's just about saying, have you looked at this brand? You can aspire to that. This is actually you.
I mean, you know, I love young. I've got Nasir on, for fuck's sake. But like, it's like, don't do that if that's not what you do.
Definitely.
Be Marni. Be this chic thing that people can aspire to, because that's.
I think this is quite cool chic.
Yeah, I don't think they're going to dumb it down. I don't think they're going to like...
it's cool chic. This is cool.
It is like, I can't, you know, like I said, heaven forbid, I can't see them doing things like courting celebrities and things like that. I think it's really nice when you discover it, because you've discovered it yourself. As in you found... It wasn't somebody presenting it to you as a lyric in a rap song, like I said. It was something that you had to seek out and you found, and you're like, okay, this is for me. This is what I want to wear. This is what I want. Like I've looked at Marni for a long time, and I don't own anything Marni because I'm just like, I'm not ready for it yet. Like that level of serious chicness. Do you know what I mean? I'm wearing kids' clothes for, you know what I mean? But I do think that it would be really nice for a young guy to look at this collection or discover it in some way. And be like,
it's an investment.
Look
at those colours.
let me look at this and let me think about it and let me follow it as a brand and think, is this for me or not? Because I think purchasing decisions are so impulsive and they're so celebrity led that it's really nice if you get the chance to spend time with a brand in your mind space.
But it's also a lot more interesting than, you know, there are so many kind of brands that aren't going for the youth vote. They're so dull and boring.
Yeah, this isn't.
This
and
isn't.
This doesn't need to be celebrity led.
I mean, it's packed, that show. There's an energy in that room happening right now.
Look at that. Beautiful print, beautiful colours.
It's so good. It's so good.
They're tweeting.
Don't you just love Italian
but it's
fashion?
Nice because look at that.
Like Italy, it has such a heritage and such a history. I just think it's amazing. I find it really cool. Have you watched this film, The Great Beauty?
I've started.
Oh,
in the beginning, it's brilliant. Yeah.
It's just
like one big.
It's one big love letter
festival
to
of Italy,
and it's just the best film ever.
It's everything you've ever imagined about Italy.
Every single typical scenario, like nuns,
but that opening
children
party
eating
scene,
fruit,
it's just
party.
fantastic.
It is really incredible, and I think when I watch that and I think about Italian fashion and the history of Italian fashion, and you think that it's not, there's no separation for Italians between fashion and life. It is one and the same.
Absolutely.
And like, you know, when I look at all of these, I think the last time I came here was actually for Fendi, and there is so much history in these brands and in these families and the way that they live their lives surrounded by beauty. Like imagine only being surrounded by beautiful, tasteful, well-designed things. Like I said, I live in Wolverhampton now. It's not like that. So when I watch this film, I'm just like, it allows you to understand the history of their mind and their mindset and thinking, and how they're going to distill all of these influences, and they're carrying centuries of history of taste, and then they put it out into this. And it is incredible. It's incredible that they can do that, and that they can have this show in a museum in Florence, in one of the most beautiful cities in the world, and you're just like, actually, thank God for Italians, because they're going to keep making good clothes.
Well, it'd be interesting, wouldn't it? Because, you know, they're the only country, I think, that has remained rich throughout history. At least since, like, you know, like the Indians and Chinese have had a little dip.
Flutter.
And they're coming back. But, you know, England certainly wasn't rich throughout history, and Italy has had this civilization throughout history.
It's true. I think about it a lot, actually, because I think about Portugal, Greece, Egypt, once great nations that are now left in tatters. And you think,
what happened?
Italy, it doesn't have this boastful like maintenance of power, but they still have something going on. Do you know what I mean? It's like if you think about a country today that has been as successful in ancient history, not like it's massively successful today, but you know, it's not like they're in tatters in the way that Greece is, for instance. Like Egypt is not a rich country, Portugal is not a rich country, or not even just rich, but culturally rich and known for making a mark in the world.
Well, you're still associating art and
you're
fashion
still
and
associating
food and
the
culture
things that
and
they
design
exactly
with it. It hasn't
with
changed.
Italy. It hasn't changed. It's maintained this cultural power as well as a financial one that I actually think is quite remarkable. Like I always think about empire because I'm Jamaican Indian. I think a lot about empire and how cultures have moved around the world, and ones that are still successful and ones that are not. And if you think about Italy, it still is massively successful. I didn't realise that that sculpture was in the middle of the catwalk, which is pretty
They've
incredible.
been scattered around, and I'd love to know who
I really
who
want to
did
know
them or
what
where
that
they're from.
sculpture's about.
Well, they must be
doesn't
part of the
say.
permanent collection of the museum, right?
So,
But they're great.
So guys, we need to get to closing comments. Natalie, do you want to go first?
Yeah, I thought it was fabulous. It gave exactly what I expected, but I do think it has this beautiful contemporary feel, and I think that it has sort of stayed true to its design heritage.
Fantastic.
I think from the little that we have seen, the scraps that we have seen, it seems, you know, consistent with Marni's kind of ethos and values. And I just hope that, you know, as Sean picked up on, that it's not going to, that the brand isn't going to massively sell out in the recent future.
I think it's really cool. It's really formal, but with moments of really fun silliness and luxuriousness and colour and energy. And I think if they can maintain their kind of position as a artistic, product design-led company, then, you know, it's only going to be more and more successful. I do always think in like commercially things of like, how can they make more money? And they can make more money by continuing to do what they do and staying in the fields that they're known for and only expanding within the things that they are good at.
Well, I think it's got to, I mean, the fashion's so built on contrariness that the fact that they're slightly not fashionable is almost a, you know, some of their
point.
obsessions are slightly not fashionable is a plus point, isn't it?
Definitely.
Because it just allows you to be refreshed from everything that's gone on. Anything else before we say goodbye?
I wish I was there in Florence, to be honest. I imagine it's a really hot, sexy night.
Fabulous parties going on.
Everyone's having a great time. They're going to go out in the open air and just like be happy that they experienced the show in a gallery.
Oh, I don't know if there's going to be a toga party though.
What?
You never know.
Do you know?
Bang. Yeah, of course. Toga.
Anybody else? No? All right. Thank you very, very,
Thank you
very,
for
very much,
having me.
guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.